Let's welcome in our good friend Bob Vanderplaats. Good to see you, brother. How are you?
I'm doing really well.
I know that, you're heading out of town here soon for another reason, and that's the funeral of Dr. Dobson as well.
Yeah.
So your thoughts on, we've done a lot of your thoughts on legacies. You've been doing a lot of those conversations so far this year.
And Dr. Dobson, we should really celebrate his life. Well, we celebrate Charlie's life. We celebrate Voddie's life. But Dr. Dobson, I think 89 years old, passed away. And as far as I know, he went right up to his last breath, basically standing in the gap for truth and for righteousness and seeing what he could do to propel it. Dr. Dobson became a good friend of mine all the way back. In 2004 is where we met for the first time, Sioux City, Iowa. And he was trying to get a guy by the name of Tom Daschle unseated with a gentleman by the name of John Thune. So go all the way back to then. And we had an event for, it was a marriage and family rally with the Iowa Family Policy Center at that time. I got a chance to play his host, drive him around Sioux City. He actually fell off the stage that night. So my quip was I didn't only get to pick him up from the airport, I got to pick him off the stage, so I got to pick him up twice. But that really bonded our relationship. And Darla and I and Dr. Dobson and Shirley became very good friends. It's an invite only to the funeral. Darla and I will be there this week, Saturday, really to celebrate a life well lived. And I believe, just like Charlie Kirk, receiving those words, well done, good and faithful servant.
Aaron, we were talking about, and to me, the Dobson-MacArthur situations are different because these are men that lived long lives, right? And, the death rate remains 100%. And so they hit their expiration date. Well, everybody has, but in this case, theirs was after a very long and traditional lifespan. In the case of Voddie, in the case of Charlie, these were men that still had quite a bit left in the tank.
Yeah.
And the just the drain of general talent we have undergone this year. And I thought Aaron raised a very good point, which is that he thinks this is the Lord basically saying, you guys, again, you've been too passive and complacent. And it should not be, no matter how apostolically gifted Charlie Kirk is, one 31-year-old man should not be as tough to replace as Charlie is going to be.
Yeah.
And that's indicative of how much we've just kind of outsourced and farmed out, our citizenship, both in the kingdom, but also civically here in this country. And that it is time now for people on an individual basis now to take the talents that they were given by the master and do something with them, rather than just kind of waiting for, these guys will handle it. These guys will say it. These guys will do it. I thought Aaron's take on that was very profound. What do you think?
Oh, it's very good in regards to we've all been given life for such a time as this. We just talked about that again at the Family Leader, and we talked about the dash. Everybody's got a date of birth. Everybody's got a date of death. But the dash is what separates the date of birth and date of death. And it's not how long you get to live. So like Dr. Dobson, almost 90 years old, right? Or for Charlie Kirk, only 31 years old. It is the impact of the dash. Did you make it count? And I would say with both cases, and Charlie Kirk and Dr. Dobson and John MacArthur and Voddie, they made it count. And so that's a challenge to all of us. But I believe it's also God waking us up or shaking us up and saying, some of your spiritual leaders, your heads, your officers, what are you going to do now? Is it time to wake up? And that hopefully, as one person said, the death of Charlie Kirk should spur another 10 million Charlie Kirks of going, I'm going to stand in the gap now. Mm-hmm. The death of a Dr. Dobson should spur people like me and you and others on to say, how can we take that mantle and carry it forward? And what I just said to Chuck Hurley, and your audience may not know Chuck, but Chuck's been with me for a long time, vice president. And I just said to him, gray hair is really, really regarded and respected in our profession because that's a sign of wisdom. Scripture talks about it as a sign of wisdom. And when you're going around these blocks, you need wisdom today. So what are you doing to speak into the legacy that God's given you, to your children, to your grandchildren, and by and large, the larger culture?
All right, let's talk about one of the biggest stories in the country because it's right here in our backyard right now.
It is.
And we had, with everything going on, we didn't have time to even get to it during the opening of the show. All right. And so Ian Roberts, superintendent of the Des Moines School District, little trivia fun fact, the first foray I ever had into mobilizing my show for activism was to actually get the first black member of the Des Moines School Board elected.
Jonathan
Narcisse, the late Jonathan Narcisse, my great friend. And so I've got a little history with this body, although it's turned over quite a bit. But it's turned over quite a bit in terms of names, but not archetypes. Jackie Norris, Michelle Obama's former chief of staff, is an archetype of exactly what we were up against when we were trying to get Jonathan on the school board way back in the day. And a lot of people are asking, how is it possible? Criminal alien, criminal record, had a deportation order since 2024. He is registered to vote in Maryland. My guess is there's maybe if I had to guess, what do you guys think the odds are that he voted in the state of Maryland? He's going to show up in the voter file there. What do you think the odds are?
High.
I think
they're pretty
really
high. Probably off the board. Probably so high you couldn't place a bet on that in Vegas, I would guess, right? Okay. And so people are wondering, I don't know if you guys are getting these texts. I'm getting these kind of texts from friends of mine all over the country. How is it possible that no one knew about this? And I think there's a simple question or simple answer to this. It's just very discomforting. They did not want to know. They didn't want to know any of this. There was no need to look for any of this.
He had all the other credentials.
Yes. Not to mention
DEI.
Yes, that's it. And not to mention he fits the overall mission, which is replacing you. The goal is to replace you. That's what's going on here. This is an attempt to replace one culture with another. They're out of waiting for you to vote the right way. And so just in case you won't, they'll just replace you. And so therefore, the qualifications of what you're looking for are totally different in such an operation than they would be if you were, say, a meritocracy. And so since this is about replacement in DEI, they looked at all the various backgrounds and qualifications they needed to look for what they wanted in that particular position.
And he checked all the boxes.
And the stuff that traditionally was supposed to check boxes to get a position like that is not what they're looking for anymore. And that's just indicative of, again, this is the kind of stuff, I know I say it a lot, but you really can't share a culture with stuff like this.
You can't. And Steve, for someone who is in the public school system, I served as a public school teacher and a public school, high school principal, and hired a lot of people, and there's always background checks, right? Mm-hmm. And you got to believe 101 is the dude a citizen of the United States or not a citizen of the United States? I found it interesting today that the State Board of Education just decertified him, took his certificate away to practice in public education because they just came to the realization he's not a U.S. citizen. In order to hold an Iowa certificate to teach, you need to be a U.S. citizen. And there's a lot of people, including the current governor candidate on the Democrat side, Rob Sands, saying, don't have everybody rush to judgment on this. There's a lot of facts that aren't there yet. I mean, how much more facts do you need that, as you said, in May of 24, under the Biden administration, he's listed as an illegal alien. He needs to suffer consequences. Nothing happens. And all of a sudden he gets notified, and all of a sudden they find his car. He fled his car, a loaded gun, a knife, $3,000 in cash. I got to believe, I don't want to steal the title of your movie, but there's something nefarious going on here, right?
Yeah, it's called a replacement. That is what is going on. All right, we are replacing you and those with your worldview with people. And here's the thing, they don't have enough. This is why they need to bring in illegals, guys. I know when you see who gets signed up for the Super Bowl halftime show, or you see the rosters of the professors at these universities, I know it seems as if they have some overwhelming advantage in volume. They don't. They are very strategically placed, but they don't have the volume of people they don't have. That's even after a generation of weaponizing, taking over, coercing, and then weaponizing our institutions against us. They don't have the population base just to instantly put in. There's not enough Karens. That's what illegal immigration is about. All right, there's an economic component, but the cultural component is they need numbers to vote their way. They need numbers to take these positions. It's about replacing you. That's what this has all been about. That's what taking 20 million people in the last few years, that's what it was about. And
I love how the Trump administration came out and said, no one's above the law. And that used to be a Democrat talking point. Remember when they were raiding Mar-a-Lago? Mm-hmm. And whether, the false accusations against the president, now you got a guy who's actually, he's not a U.S. citizen. And he's being the superintendent of the largest school district in the state of Iowa. So I think, hats off to President Trump, his administration, Kristi Noem, Holman, the others, whoever's in charge of this, of saying, listen, we're going to send a message. And for all these protesters, the 500 or whatever it is, I was even told in Sioux City, Iowa, and other places across the state of Iowa, there are people protesting, for accountability.
Right.
And to me, that means we win, you lose.
How about Jackie Norris using the term radical empathy? By the way, I want to congratulate Ali Stuckey's producer today. You've got a de facto day off. I mean, that is like a direct challenge of Allie's book, Toxic Empathy. I mean, I think I'm pretty confident I know what Allie will be talking about later today here on Blaze TV. All right. But that terminology, using radical empathy for this guy as if he is the victim here.
Yeah. Let me do a commercial for your book, Toxic Empathy.
Yes. You were going to say something, Todd? Go ahead.
Well, we've talked a lot about we can't let our American cities, leftist American cities, as much as we want to laugh about them, go. In the name of America,
Sure.
Right here in Red State, this is why this is not only an opportunity, but quite frankly, I think an obligation. I think there needs to be an emergency declaration that is constitutionally to take over this district and to do, as your friend, one of his favorite great lines, Jonathan Narsa, say forensic audit of this entire district and show everybody how dark it gets. I have teacher friends in this district. They said, whoa, Nelly, you don't even know the half of it. Let's all find out.
That's exactly. The legislature ought to say no funding for this district at all until a forensic audit has been conducted. 100%.
And you know who should be calling out for the forensic audit? Is the
Rob
state auditor
Sand,
who's running for governor, and his name's Rob Sand.
Yeah.
And it's also, I love it, Todd, I didn't even think about that, but just as Trump is saying, listen, you're allowing Portland to go to heck in a handbasket, we're going to take over Portland. We're going to take over Washington, D.C.
Absolutely.
Chicago, we're coming. This is an opportunity to say, listen, we put a lot of state public funds into that district, and you guys just, biffed on the largest decision that you had, who's leading the district. We're coming in, we're taking over, there's a forensic audit. We're going to get back to academic excellence, education and learning, and not social engineering and hiring people who aren't supposed to be here. I love the idea. Legislators are calling out, like, there has to be something done here. And maybe I'll give. Well,
you and I know a few legislators. We could probably maybe give something like that a little bit of a nudge, I'm guessing.
Yeah, we also know Governor Reynolds pretty well. I think we can give her a nudge as well. I think she'd like to do this.
All right. Last thing, because I saw you share this too. I saw this caught your eye. We got about 3 minutes here. Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas saying that the Dobbs decision should not be a one-off. The court in mass should be looking at all, the same thing with the decision that overturned Chevron. All right, there should be more of looking at some long-established precedents and act like they are ironclad and cannot be challenged. And we need to actually be doing more precedent overturning with the current Supreme Court. And that, of course, that made me do the eyeballs emoji over to Bergefell over there, which is basically the Rosetta Stone to all of the cultural rot gut we are currently, facing from the Rainbow Jihad at the moment. But what are your thoughts?
Well, I couldn't agree with him more. First of all, I've never attended law school, although I get talked about, I'm told, in law school from time to time. I've never attended law school, but to me, as the precedent should be the Constitution.
Mm-hmm. And that's how you know you didn't attend law school, because they're not taught that in law school.
They're not taught that at all. As a matter of fact, they're not taught about separation of powers. They're taught that they make the law, they execute the law.
The court determines its own jurisdiction.
They're in charge. And quite frankly, it's not just the liberal justices that embrace that view. It's a lot of conservative justices that embrace that view as well. We're in charge. And which branch of government wouldn't like to declare that we're in charge? So for me, for a Supreme Court justice like Clarence Thomas saying, listen, we need to take a look at all this precedent stuff, because what's the precedent based off of? Is it based off just 5 justices of a 9-person court saying that gave us precedent and now we need to rule?
I've got a feeling isn't just a song anymore. It's a legal doctrine.
Yeah, I'm hooked on a feeling. And the hooked on a feeling is I'm in charge. And so I think you're right, Steve, whether it be Obergefell, but there's so many cases that need to be looked at this way.
Kelo, New London, and Plyler versus Doe, which is what opened the door to all the illegal immigration problems that we just got done discussing a minute ago. Yeah.
So all these law schools that produced all these lawyers.
Kelo, New London is what opened the door to taking your land for, private development. Yes.
Well, there's so much of it. I mean, and so what we argued back in 2010, and when we ousted those 3 Supreme Court justices, that, well, you may disagree, you might agree with them on the institution of marriage, like it should be same-sex or it should be something else. What about when they come after your private property? What about when they come after your gun rights? What about they come the way you educate your children or your children in general? And all that stuff's opened up, and we're saying, oh, that's all happening. No, I applaud Clarence Thomas for saying this. We need to take a look at all precedents.
Enjoy your trip. I know it's going to be a sad occasion, but to me, this is a life very well lived and a long life with a tremendous legacy at that.
It'll be
Dr. Dobson.
I really look forward to it. It'll be a great time of praise and worship and being there for the family.
All right, good to see you.
Good to see you.
All right, Todd.